Across the vast expanse of the galaxy, the Cthar Dominion was known by a single, fear-inducing title: the strongest Deathworld species. Their reputation preceded them in every corner of charted space: brutal, efficient, and possessing territory that no sane species would dare invade. Their biology told the tale of their fearsome evolution: naturally thick armor plating covering their massive frames, multiple razor-sharp appendages, predatory senses honed to perfection, and unparalleled resilience to the most extreme environments imaginable. Their homeworld, Cthar Prime, was classified as a true Level 9 death world, a hellscape of constantly active volcanoes, acid storms that could dissolve standard spacecraft hulls, predatory megafauna that would give nightmares to the bravest warriors of other species, and a corrosive atmosphere that required special breathing apparatus for even the hardiest of visitors. This crucible of evolutionary pressure had forged the Cthar into the perfect killing machines, emotionless, pragmatic, and utterly devoted to their core philosophy. That philosophy was simple and had served them well. Only the strongest survive. Weakness must be purged. It wasn't cruelty in their minds, merely the natural order of things, proven time and again by their own bloody history and their conquests across the stars. It was during a routine patrol of their buffer zone, a vast stretch of empty space maintained around Cthar territory, that something unusual was detected. A small vessel, seemingly primitive in design and moving at a leisurely pace, had crossed into the outermost edge of the restricted area. Most notably, it wasn't broadcasting any standard identification signals recognized by galactic protocols. The patrol commander, a battle-scarred veteran named Krozik, observed the vessel's trajectory with mild curiosity before filing his report. The preliminary assessment was straightforward: a weak ship, possibly refugees or victims of a navigation error. Certainly no threat to the mighty Cthar Dominion. When the report reached Supreme Warlord Vorgoth, the massive leader of all Cthar forces barely acknowledged it. Vorgoth's towering frame, crisscrossed with the scars of 1,000 victories, shifted slightly on his command throne. His primary eyes narrowed, while his secondary visual organs continued monitoring various tactical displays. "Apply standard purification protocol," he rumbled, already moving his attention to more important matters. The order was simple: intercept, capture if possible for study, destroy if resistance was encountered. It was a protocol applied countless times to wandering vessels, and never once had it resulted in anything but another easy victory for Cthar forces. The patrol vessels converged on the unknown ship, broadcasting final warnings on all standard galactic frequencies. The warnings were clear: halt immediately, prepare to be boarded, or face immediate destruction. What happened next would send ripples through the Cthar Dominion that would eventually grow into waves of confusion, disbelief, and a fundamental questioning of their place in the galaxy. The small vessel, instead of fleeing or surrendering as expected, adjusted its course slightly and transmitted a message. The transmission wasn't filled with terror or pleas for mercy. Instead, it contained a politely worded request to dock at the nearest Cthar outpost. "Hello there. This is Captain Eva Rostova of the Earth vessel Rusty Bucket. We seem to have stumbled upon your territory during our exploratory mission. Would it be possible to dock somewhere? We'd love to learn more about your species and culture. Plus, we could really use a bathroom break and maybe top up our coffee supplies." The message was transmitted in standard galactic common language, though with an unusual accent and peculiar phrasing that the Cthar translation systems struggled to properly contextualize. At Outpost Delta 7, Commander Grok received the transmission with utter bewilderment. A veteran of hundreds of engagements, Grok had never encountered such a response to standard purification warnings. After brief communication with his superiors, he decided to allow the vessel to dock, not out of hospitality, but to efficiently capture these strange beings who were either monumentally foolish or playing at some incomprehensible deception. Permission granted, Grok transmitted curtly: "Proceed to docking bay 3. Any deviation from a sign vector will result in immediate destruction." "Wonderful. "Thank you so much for your hospitality," came the cheerful reply. "Looking forward to meeting you all." Grok dispatched a full security detail to the docking bay, heavily armed Kthar warriors in battle armor, ready for any possible threat. The standard procedure for first contact with unknown species always assumed maximum hostility. The Kthar had never found reason to question this approach. The security forces surrounded the docking bay, weapons charged, as the small vessel, now clearly visible and indeed appearing remarkably unsophisticated, completed its docking procedures with surprising precision. For several tense moments, nothing happened. Then, with a hiss of equalizing pressure, the main hatch on the vessel opened. What emerged first was not a weapon, not a scanning probe, but a face, a soft, pinkish face with no apparent armor, adorned with what the Kthar would later learn was called a smile. The face belonged to a bipedal creature with no visible natural weapons, covered in colorful fabric rather than protective plating. For more similar beings followed, each as physically unimpressive as the first. "Hello, I'm Captain Eva Rostova," said the lead creature, extending one of its limbs forward in what seemed like an attack gesture. "Wow, interesting architecture you have here. Bit heavy on the concrete, though, isn't it?" Grok involuntarily stepped backward, his primary combat claw raised defensively. The translation device embedded in his communication array struggled to parse the casual nature of the speech. "I'm Commander Grok. You have entered restricted Kthar space. Identify your species and homeworld immediately." His voice was a deep, threatening growl, amplified by his armor's external speakers to create the intimidating effect that had caused many adversaries to surrender on the spot. "Oh, sorry about the intrusion. We're humans from Earth," replied the apparent leader, seemingly unaffected by the intimidation display. "This is Dr. Eris Thorne, our science officer." She gestured to a slightly taller human wearing transparent circles over its visual organs. "That's Mackenzie O'Connell. We call her Mac, our engineer." A shorter human with dark smudges on its appendages gave a casual wave. "And that's Barry Jenkins, documenting our journey." The final human was pointing a small device at the assembled Kthar warriors, apparently recording images. "Hey there, you guys look amazing. Mind if I get some footage for my travel blog? The lighting in here is perfect for your exoskeletons." Grok was speechless for several seconds. His secondary brain case, evolved specifically to process threat assessments, was finding no pattern that matched this behavior. No fear, no defensive posturing, no recognition of the mortal danger they were in. How do creatures as weak as you survive in space?" He finally managed, genuine confusion overriding his regular interrogation protocols. What manner of Deathworld could possibly produce such fragile beings? The one identified as Dr. Eris Thorne stepped forward eagerly. "Oh, Earth? It's quite a dynamic place, actually. Constant tectonic activity, periodic supervolcano eruptions, several ice ages, occasional asteroid impacts. Fairly standard stuff. We've got pretty much every biome you can imagine, from regions so cold your bodily fluids freeze solid to deserts where water evaporates from your body faster than you can replace it. Fascinating ecosystem dynamics." Grok's translator device must be malfunctioning, he decided. The description sounded like a mid-tier death world at minimum. Yet these creatures had no apparent evolutionary adaptations for such environments. No armor, no visible specialized organs, no redundant systems. Nothing but soft, easily punctured exteriors. "You will be escorted to containment for study," Grok announced, gesturing to his warriors to surround the humans. "Resistance is—" "Oh, sounds interesting. Lead the way," interrupted Captain Rostova. "Any chance we could get something to eat on the way? We've been living on freeze-dried rations for weeks." The humans followed their heavily armed escorts with casual interest, commenting on the station's architecture, asking questions about Kthar biology, and seemingly oblivious to the fact that they were prisoners being taken to what was essentially an interrogation facility. "Bit minimalist, but gloomy," observed Mac, looking at the star corridors. "Have you guys ever considered skylights? Natural light does wonders for morale." I'm starving, complained Barry, adjusting the settings on his recording device. I hope they have something edible. I'm missing lunch at this point. In a containment area, a reinforced chamber designed to hold beings far more physically powerful than humans, Grok attempted to begin standard interrogation procedures. The results were disastrous. We demand to know your true purpose in Cthar space, he growled, looming over Captain Rostova. No species enters our territory accidentally. Oh, but we genuinely did. We're on an exploratory mission, boldly going where no human has gone before and all that. She smiled again, that strange facial expression that the Cthar couldn't interpret. We're mapping this sector. Your territory wasn't on our charts. We're relatively new to interstellar travel. Lies will only intensify your suffering. Grok threatened, his armor plates flaring to reveal the glowing energy patterns that had terrified countless prisoners before. Eva looked more confused than frightened. I'm not lying. Want some snacks while we chat? She reached into a pocket and pulled out a small, colorful package. These are gummy bears. Sugar, gelatin, artificial flavors. Nothing fancy, but they're tasty. The notion that a captive would offer food to their captor was so alien to Cthar psychology that Grok simply stared at the offered item, his threat display forgotten. Down the corridor, Dr. Zalt, the outpost's chief biologist, was attempting to analyze samples of the humans' food and personal items. His findings were being transmitted directly to High Command. Supreme Warlord, preliminary analysis shows their sustenance contains complex chemical mixtures that would be considered addictive and neurologically damaging by our standards. They willingly consume substances that would trigger our toxin warnings: caffeine, refined sugars, various preservatives, and flavor enhancers. When confronted with this information, Dr. Thorne merely nodded. That's right, we consume those regularly. Coffee practically keeps our civilization running. It's full of caffeine, helps us stay alert. He offered a small packet to Dr. Zalt. Want to try some instant? Not as good as fresh ground, but it works in a pinch. Dr. Zalt recoiled in horror, ordering his assistants to secure the biological weapon in a containment field. Meanwhile, a technical malfunction in the cell block's control systems caught Mac's attention. That panel's overheating, she observed, pointing to a wall unit where warning lights were flashing. Want to take a look? Looks like a standard cooling system issue. The Cthar guards exchanged confused glances, their ingrained suspicion battling with the practical problem of a system failure. Eventually, one of them gestured for Mac to proceed, while keeping weapons trained on her. As she worked on the panel, Mac accidentally touched an exposed power conduit, receiving an electrical shock that momentarily caused the lights to flicker. The Cthar guards tensed, ready for the human to collapse. Such power surges could incapacitate even juvenile Cthar. Instead, Mac merely muttered, "Damn it, my favorite screwdriver," rubbing her slightly blackened hand before continuing her work. Get shocked like this all the time back home, especially when working on the older systems. The Cthar witness to this incident immediately filed a report. The humans exhibited inexplicable resistance to electrical damage that would be debilitating to most species. By the time Grok made his urgent report to Warlord Vorgoth, he was in a state of profound confusion. Supreme Warlord, these creatures, these humans, they defy explanation. Physically weak, yet possessing inexplicable resilience, exhibiting an almost suicidal lack of fear, yet extremely protective of each other. They offer us their toxic food as if it were a gesture of friendship. They speak of their homeworld as if its constant deadly threats are merely inconveniences. Vorgoth's expression darkened. This must be some form of psychological warfare or deception. No species behaves this way naturally. They must be hiding their true capabilities. He considered for a moment before giving his order. Proceed with enhanced environmental testing. Let us see what these humans are truly capable of withstanding. The enhanced environmental testing was a series of chambers designed to simulate various extreme conditions: intense heat, freezing cold, rapid atmosphere pressure changes, and exposure to low-level Cthar pathogens. These tests had broken the will of numerous captured species in the past. The humans were each placed in separate chambers, while Cathar scientists monitored their vital signs and behavior. The results left the observers more confused than ever. In the heat chamber, as temperatures rose well beyond what should be comfortable for carbon-based life, Eva merely complained about dry skin. "My lips are getting chapped. Do you have any lip balm?" she asked through the intercom. In the cold chamber, Barry shivered but continued filming his surroundings with his device. -20 Celsius? Been colder during winter camping in Minnesota, though the wind chill factor is better in here. In the pressure chamber, Mac actually fell asleep during a cycle meant to simulate rapid ascent and descent, conditions that caused extreme discomfort in most species. Most disturbing to the Cathar scientists was Dr. Thorne's reaction to the pathogen exposure. Rather than showing signs of infection, he became intensely interested in the experimental design, asking detailed questions about the microorganisms and taking notes on his own physiological responses. "Fascinating immune challenge," he commented, examining a rash that had developed on his arm. "My histamine response is quite pronounced, but seems to be containing the infection effectively. Is this pathogen endemic to your homeworld?" During a break in the testing, Dr. Thorne attempted to explain human biology to Dr. Zalt, who had become reluctantly fascinated by these inexplicable creatures. "You see, our immune systems have been trained over millions of years to face countless bacteria and viruses. Earth is teeming with microbial life. A child encounters more immune challenges before age 5 than many species face in a lifetime. Our DNA repair mechanisms are remarkably efficient due to background radiation levels, and we've evolved psychological coping mechanisms that generate endorphins, adrenaline, and a constant search for novelty." He showed Dr. Zalt images of Earth on his personal device. Hurricanes tearing through settlements, tornadoes lifting vehicles into the air, droughts turning fertile land to dust, floods submerging entire cities, earthquakes collapsing structures, pandemics spreading across continents, and everyday traffic accidents. Our planet doesn't try to kill you with just one thing. It tries everything. And that's just the natural threats. We create plenty of our own dangers. Dr. Thorne scrolled to videos of human recreational activities, surfing gigantic waves, jumping from cliffs with thin fabric canopies, running marathons across deserts, eating Pepper's bread specifically to cause maximum pain. "Wait," Dr. Zalt interrupted, his scientific detachment finally breaking. "These activities are voluntary? For pleasure?" "Oh yes," Dr. Thorne nodded enthusiastically. "Adventure tourism is a multi-billion-dollar industry. People pay good money to put themselves in controlled danger." The Cathar scientist's secondary appendages twitched in disbelief. "But what?" Dr. Thorne considered this. "I suppose because we can. Because we evolved in an environment where adaptation meant not just surviving threats, but learning to thrive despite them. The human brain produces reward chemicals when we overcome challenges. We literally become addicted to solving problems and facing adversity. In return, the Cathar showed the humans recordings of life on Cathar Prime, ritualized hunts for massive predators, bloody combat ceremonies to prove strength, their methods of surviving an acid rain that could dissolve metal. Captain Rostoval watched with interest. "Impressive. Reminds me of some of our more dangerous national parks. People still try to take selfies with grizzly bears despite all the warning signs." She showed a video of a human attempting to photograph themselves next to a massive predator, another of people climbing a glacier with minimal equipment, and a festival where thousands of humans threw tomatoes at each other in what appeared to be ritualized but non-lethal combat. As the Cathar reviewed their findings, a new understanding began to emerge. Their definition of strongest had always been based on direct biological offensive and defensive capabilities. The thickest armor, the deadliest natural weapons, the most efficient killing techniques. Human strength was something altogether different, an almost irrational resilience, an adaptability, and a psychological endurance forged by a world that killed in countless diverse, constant, and often mundane ways. On Earth, one could die from a simple bacterial infection, a fall downstairs, or choking on food. Humans had evolved not to prevent such threats, but to endure and recover from them, maintaining a bizarre optimism despite it all. Supreme Warlord Vorgoth finally decided to meet these strange beings himself. He entered the observation room where the humans had been gathered after the testing phases. His massive frame, towering over even his Cthar subordinates, was designed to inspire awe and terror. No species had ever faced him without showing deference or fear. Captain Rostova looked up and smiled. "You must be the boss. Nice to finally meet you. Would you like to try a wonderful drink, Mac, just whipped up from our ship's food synthesizer? We call it iced tea." Vorgoth performed the traditional Cthar dominance display, a thunderous roar, expansion of muscle groups, revealing the energy patterns on his armor plates. Eva blinked. "Are you okay? You seem tense. Would you like to try some relaxation music? Barry has an amazing playlist." Stunned by the lack of appropriate response, Vorgoth retreated to convene his strategic council. The assembled Cthar leaders reviewed all the reports. Humans were physically weak compared to Cthar, but possessed astonishing endurance and recovery abilities, unpredictable behavior patterns, an alarming lack of self-preservation instinct, but extreme protection of their fellow humans. They consumed toxic substances regularly, actively sought out danger, recovered quickly from injuries that would be fatal to many species, and had domesticated predators on their planet. Their brains appear to be programmed to function optimally when facing constant adversity, Dr. Zoll concluded. They don't avoid problems, they actively seek them out to solve. And most concerning, they seem to genuinely believe that every problem has a solution. The Council's conclusion was clear, but difficult for the Cthar to accept. War with humans would be extremely risky. Not because humans would win through military strength, but because their responses would be completely unpredictable. They might lose tactically, but would never stop, and they might well come up with some insane solution that would have catastrophic consequences for both species. The Cthar classified Earth as a special category dangerous world, undefined. They reluctantly issued transit permits for the Rusty Bucket, proposed establishing limited diplomatic relations, mostly for monitoring purposes, and issued an internal directive: never, under any circumstances, consume food or drink offered by humans. As the humans cheerfully departed the Cthar outpost, waving goodbye, Eva remarked to her crew, "The Cthar weren't so bad, just a bit too serious." Dr. Thorne had already begun drafting a scientific paper, preliminary analysis of physiological and psychological responses of Cthar species to cognitive dissonance regarding the concept of survival strength. Grok and his fellow Cthar watched the human vessel depart with a mixture of relief and profound unease. One Cthar warrior muttered, "Let's hope they never come back." Little did they know that word was already spreading through human communication channels about the fascinating warrior species with amazing bioarmor and their challenging but breathtaking homeworld that would make the ultimate extreme tourism destination. Within weeks, 3 more human vessels would request permission to enter Cthar space, each one filled with scientists, anthropologists, adventure seekers, and documentary filmmakers eager to experience the galaxy's most intense environment. The strongest Deathworld species was about to learn an important lesson. No force in the universe is more unstoppable than human curiosity. The Supreme Warlord Council quickly convened a new emergency session. The topic: developing protocols for dealing with human tourists and establishing quarantine procedures for any Cthar unfortunate enough to be exposed to human friendship. Somewhere in the void between stars, Captain Rostova looked at the Cthar diplomatic visa they'd been issued and chuckled. "You know," she said to her crew, "I think they actually liked us." Dr. Thorne looked up from his notes with a thoughtful expression. "More likely they're terrified of us." "Same thing with some species," Mac replied, tinkering with a souvenir she'd managed to acquire, a piece of Cthar technology that the original owners were probably only now realizing was missing. Barry, reviewing his footage, laughed. "Wait until they meet our party animals. I've already posted in the Extreme Destinations forum. Cthar Prime is trending as next year's hotspot. May the universe help them," Eva said, raising her coffee mug in a toast. To new friends who don't know they're friends yet. Across the stars on Cthar Prime, Warlord Vorgoth gazed at the first official communication from Earth's government, a request to establish an embassy and trading relations, and felt something no Cthar had experienced in generations: uncertainty about the future. The strongest Deathworld species had met its match, not in strength, but in humanity's inexplicable, irrepressible, and utterly baffling ability to treat the deadly universe as one grand adventure playground.